The first shock came not with fire or weapons, but with a ripple of stillness. Space had always been quiet, sterile even to the crew of the Astronova, but now the vacuum around them seemed to hum. Commander Elias Rourke felt it in his bones before the scanners confirmed it. A fleet of alien vessels, each massive as a small moon, drifted into orbit around the uncharted planet they had been sent to survey. "Sir," whispered Lieutenant Mara Vey, her voice unusually tight. "They're watching us," Elias swallowed. Watching or waiting? The difference, he knew, could be catastrophic. The aliens, tall, limbless, with translucent skins that shimmered with pulsing veins, did not communicate in sound. Their gestures were subtle, almost imperceptible. Flickers of light across their skin, rhythmic waves in the air that seemed to vibrate in tune with the human nervous system. Scientists had named them the Luthari, after the mythic creatures their scans most resembled, but myth meant nothing now. Dr. Jace Wren, the ship's xenopsychologist, stepped forward, pacing the small bridge. "We don't understand their motives. Could be observation. Could be attack. Or both." Mara's eyes never left the viewport. "They're too patient. That's the scary part." Elias didn't argue. Humans were trained for calculation, strategy, probability, but the Luthari played a different game. One the humans didn't even know the rules for. A sudden pulse of energy hit the Astronova's shields. Not a weapon, not yet, just a probing touch that sent shivers through the metal hull. "Status," Elias barked. "Structural integrity nominal," replied the engineer, a young woman named Lyra Hahn. "But the pulse, it's reading us, everything. Heart rates, neural patterns, stress levels." Jace's hands shook slightly. "They can feel our fear, and curiosity, and doubt." Elias clenched his jaw. "They underestimate humans if they think fear controls us." They were right. Aliens often did underestimate humans. Casual humans, they called them in their reports. Humans who stumbled, laughed, wept, yet still rose to the impossible. Yet here, in the eerie light of the Luthari fleet, Elias wondered if this time casual might not be enough. "Open a comm channel," he said. "Let's see if we can at least talk." The Luthari responded with another pulse. A faint vibration ran through the ship's hull. Then a voice, or the closest approximation, echoed in their minds. Not words, but feeling, curiosity, confusion, expectation. "You are..." The thought arrived, fragmented like glass cracking. Fragile, yet bright. "Why?" Mara shivered. "They can read us. Every one of us." "Perhaps they think humans are a puzzle," Jace said. "Something to teach?" Elias stared at the fleet. His stomach twisted. "Or something to break." The first small probe descended. Not a ship, but a living thing, silver and fluid, sliding across the planet's surface. As it moved, it observed everything. Trees, rocks, rivers. "And humans, Commander," Lyra said, pointing to the readings. It's taking patterns. Everything we do, it's running simulations, predicting." Elias's teeth clenched. "We've never been tested like this. Not by another species. Not on this scale." The Luthari did not communicate further. Their probe moved closer to the landing site. And then in an instant the pulse returned. Harder this time, painful. Not fatal, but enough to remind humans of their mortality. Mara staggered. "It's learning." "About us." Elias's eyes narrowed. He had trained for combat, for diplomacy, for the worst of the cosmos, but nothing had prepared him for being observed like a lab rat by a creature that could think through your skin. Human resilience is unusual. The Luthari's thought voice came again, faint but cutting. "You adapt. You survive. You rebel against pattern," Jace whispered, almost to himself. "They don't understand us." "Then we make sure they do," Elias said, a fire igniting in his chest. "And they'll learn, one catastrophic lesson at a time." Below them, the planet's surface hid more than just forests and rivers. Hidden, dormant, lay humanity's first true weapon, unpredictability. Elias didn't smile. Not yet. But in the depth of space against an alien civilization that thought themselves teachers, he felt the stirrings of something ancient, something human, the refusal to be tamed, and the Luthari. We're about to find out just how casual humans could be. The probe hovered over the planet's jagged terrain, its silver surface reflecting the dim light of the sun. The Astronova's sensors buzzed relentlessly, displaying data too complex to read in real time. Elias Rourke leaned over the console, jaw tight. They're mapping everything. Every heartbeat, every thought, every instinct, Lyra said, her voice tight as she scanned the live feed. They're learning how we think before we even move. Elias clenched his fists. Then it's time we think differently. Below them, Lieutenant Marave studied the probe. Her eyes narrowed as she noticed a pattern in its movements, a rhythm not dictated by terrain or survival, but by curiosity. The Luthari were meticulous, slow, observing, like predators testing a prey that could fight back in unpredictable ways. They're not just watching us, Mara said. They're expecting us to react. Every twitch, every glance is a variable in their calculations. Jace Wren leaned back, rubbing his temples. And they think they understand us. They assume we follow rules, patterns. But humans don't always. That's what makes us dangerous, Elias nodded. Then we weaponize that. But the first test came not from the aliens, but from within. The Astronova trembled as the probe emitted a pulse, a low hum that resonated inside the crew's skulls. It wasn't violent yet, but it made every nerve feel alive, raw, exposed. Mara gasped. It's reading fear, and frustration, and... Her voice cracked. Doubt. Keep it together, Elias snapped. Remember why we're here? Remember that curiosity is also ours to control. The humans deployed a small reconnaissance team. 2 shuttles 30 meters long, sleek, built for speed. Elias, Mara, and Jace led the landing. The planet's surface was alive with subtle energy, almost imperceptible to the eye. Like the pulse of a heart hidden deep underground, the probe followed, sliding silently, reshaping its form to navigate rocks and rivers. It was patient, precise. Elias could feel it. Not with touch, but with thought. A subtle pressure that seemed to echo their own decisions back at them. You feel that? Mara whispered. Yeah, Elias said. It's mirroring us. They're trying to anticipate every step. Jace shook his head. Mirroring isn't understanding. And understanding. That's the flaw they'll make. A crackle ran through the air. A faint shimmer appeared above the forested horizon. The Luthari fleet had not moved, yet the signal was undeniable. They were not just observing. They were communicating with each other, weaving their calculations into a network the humans could not penetrate. And then it happened. Lyra's voice came over the comm. Commander, the probe it's forming something. A structure. It's evolving based on our reactions. Whatever we do, it changes. It's learning on the fly, Elias felt a chill. How fast? Faster than anything human or alien we've seen, Lyra replied. It's predicting our predictions. Mara's eyes widened. It's intelligent, and it's obsessed with us. They watched as the probe rose into the air, its silver form twisting and stretching into shapes that resembled weapons, then tools, then symbols, none of which the humans understood. Each shape seemed designed not to harm but to test. Elias took a deep breath. They're teachers, all right, but they don't know one thing. What's that? Jace asked. Elias smiled faintly, a dangerous, determined curve. Humans don't need teachers. A tremor ran through the shuttle as the probe fired a narrow beam at the ground, splitting rocks like paper. Yet when the humans advanced, it adjusted instantly, retreating just enough to avoid contact. It was a game. A deadly intelligent game. Mara gritted her teeth. It's like, it respects us, or it thinks it can break us. Both, Elias said. And either way, we'll make sure the lesson isn't theirs. Hours passed, though it felt like days. Every human instinct was tested. Every fear, every hesitation, every moment of doubt amplified by the Luthari probe's eerie presence. Yet with every adjustment, every risky maneuver, the humans learned as much about the probe as it learned about them. And deep inside, Elias felt it. The first flicker of a strategy that no alien calculation could anticipate. Not obedience, not logic, not even pattern recognition, human unpredictability. The probe paused, hovering above the humans. Its surface shimmered with what might have been curiosity, or warning, and then without explanation it pulsed one last time and vanished into the forest. Elias exhaled, muscles tense, heart hammering. They're not gone. Not really, but we just survived their first lesson. Mara glanced at him, eyes wide. Do you think they understand us? Elias shook his head slowly. They think they do, and that's exactly why they'll fail. High above, the alien fleet waited, watching, calculating, expecting, and humans, ordinary, messy, courageous humans, had already begun writing a story that no alien teacher could control. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Elias Rourke crouched behind a jagged rock, Marave beside him, rifles ready but untouched. The probe had vanished, yet its presence lingered in every rustle of leaves, every pulse in the soil. "Why do we keep walking into this?" Mara muttered, scanning the trees. "Every step they know, every thought they see." Elias didn't answer immediately. He studied the forest's shadows, the way sunlight fractured through the foliage. "Because curiosity is stronger than fear," he said finally. "And that's why we're still alive." Jace Wren, trailing slightly behind, shook his head. "Stronger than fear doesn't mean invincible. One mistake and—" His voice faltered. Elias cut him off. "One mistake doesn't define us. Humans aren't predictable, Jace. That's the edge we have. That's what they don't understand." And indeed, the Luthari didn't understand. The probe, still hidden in the forest, had been observing, recording, recalculating. But every step the humans took contradicted its predictions. When it anticipated hesitation, they rushed forward. When it expected aggression, they paused, almost casual in their indifference. "You think they can't adapt?" Mara whispered, glancing nervously around. "They'll try," Elias said. "But adaptation is an instinct, it's a choice. And humans, we choose in ways no algorithm can." Suddenly, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the forest floor. Elias's hand shot to Mara's shoulder. The probe had returned, reshaping itself again, this time into a lattice of silver tendrils that snaked through the trees. Its form was alien, beautiful, terrifying. The tendrils pulsed with light, scanning the humans as if to read their very intentions. Jace swallowed. "They're predicting our predictions again. Faster this time." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Then we give them something unexpected." "Like what?" Mara asked, tense. Elias didn't answer. He ducked behind a tree and whispered, "Chaos." Chaos was what humans did best. Not ordered, not structured. Messy, dangerous, unpredictable. They split up, darting through the forest in patterns designed to mislead. They left false trails, deliberately stepping into the open, then retreating. Every heartbeat, every glance, every tiny motion contradicted the Luthari's calculations. The probe adjusted, pulsing brighter, extending tendrils to intercept, to anticipate, to contain. But the humans didn't follow patterns. They adapted mid-step, creating scenarios the probe had never encountered. "This isn't a game," Jace said, awe mixed with fear. "They're angry. And I think—" He stopped, eyes wide. "What?" Mara asked. "They can't control it." Elias smiled faintly. The first real victory, their small, casual rebellion, was working. The Luthari, the so-called teachers, were unprepared for resistance born not of technology or firepower, but of instinct, courage, and human unpredictability. Then the probe reacted. Not violently, but with a flood of sensation. Images and thoughts forced into the humans' minds. Flashes of other worlds, of civilizations crushed under alien logic, of mistakes humans couldn't see yet. It was a psychological strike, a warning, a lesson. Mara staggered. "It's showing us." Elias grabbed her shoulder. "Focus, breathe. We choose what to fear. We choose what to do." Slowly, they regained control. And in doing so, something shifted. The probe hesitated, a subtle stutter in its movements. For the first time, it didn't know what they would do next. Hours passed in a tense stalemate. The humans created illusions, false trails, fake retreats. The probe, elegant and relentless, adapted, but always one step behind the unpredictable. Finally, Elias gathered them. "This is the first lesson we teach them," he said, voice quiet but firm. "Humans aren't puzzles. Humans aren't predictable. Humans resist." Mara's voice trembled, a mix of fear and exhilaration. "Do you think they understand that?" "They feel it," Elias said. "And that's enough for now." But somewhere high above, the Luthari fleet shifted, communicating silently, pulsing signals the humans could not intercept. Their frustration was growing, a force that could turn curiosity into something far more dangerous. Elias watched the treetops. "We've won a small battle," he said. "But the war, the real war, is just beginning." The probe pulsed one last time before vanishing into the forest. Yet its presence lingered in their minds, a shadow of expectation, a reminder that every casual human victory carried consequences they could not yet see. And for the first time, the Luthari felt it. the sting of underestimating humanity. Night fell over the alien forest, but it was no comfort. The darkness was thick, alive, and unpredictable like the humans themselves. Elias Rourke crouched on a ridge overlooking their makeshift camp, eyes scanning the shadows. "They're still out there," Mara whispered, her voice taut. "I can feel them, watching, waiting." Elias nodded. "Good, let them watch. We're not hiding. We're planning." Jace Wren adjusted the portable scanner, muttering under his breath. Planning? Or surviving another psychological assault? The probe didn't just disappear. It's learning from everything we do. Every fear, every hesitation, every hope. "That's why we don't act like we're afraid," Elias said, his tone quiet but sharp. "We act normal, casual, like it doesn't matter. Even when it does." Mara tilted her head. "Casual? We're being hunted." "Exactly," Elias said. "And the best weapon against hunters isn't panic. It's unpredictability, it's human nature." Hours passed. The crew moved silently through the trees, leaving false trails, stepping where no calculations could predict. They whispered, joked, and even laughed at improbable moments. Not loud, not careless, but just enough to confuse the probe's algorithms to make the Luthari question their assumptions. "You're insane," Jace muttered. "They're intelligent beyond anything we've ever faced." "And you're joking?" Elias smiled faintly. "Intelligence has limits. Empathy, humor, stubbornness, those don't fit into a pattern. That's our edge." Then the first shock of the night arrived. A sudden pulse of light burst across the sky, illuminating the forest in silver. The probe had returned, but this time it wasn't alone. Dozens of smaller units slid along the ground, synchronized, studying, probing, testing. "Multiplicity," Mara whispered. "They're learning. Faster," Elias gritted his teeth. "Then we escalate. Let's give them a lesson they'll never calculate." The humans split into teams, moving unpredictably, scattering decoys, triggering minor explosions to simulate attacks. Each move was deliberate, chaotic, impossible to model. The Luthari units reacted in perfect synchrony, but their coordination faltered when faced with human spontaneity. One of the probes extended a tendril toward a rock where Mara had just been crouching. The rock crumbled before her arrival. The alien calculation had predicted her presence, but she wasn't there. She had moved 2 meters to the left, casual as if she had all the time in the universe. Jace let out a small laugh. "They're losing patience." "Good," Elias said. "We'll use it." Hours of careful chaos began to tell. The Luthari probes twisted and reshaped, scanning and recalculating endlessly, but each human move contradicted predictions. Every calculated pattern was met with a human improvisation, and then came the moment that changed everything. Elias signaled Mara to pause. He raised his hand and motioned toward a narrow canyon. "Follow me. Keep quiet." They entered the canyon. The walls were high, the shadows deep. Elias placed a small transmitter on the canyon floor, a decoy emitting fake biosigns. They retreated into the trees. The probe arrived, drawn to the signal, stretching its tendrils, scanning, analyzing. And then, because it could not account for human trickery, it became trapped in a loop of calculations, endlessly predicting movements that never happened. Jace stared. "We broke it." Elias shook his head. "Not broken, confused. They're not used to humans choosing unpredictability over instinct. That's the lesson." Mara exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders. "They're learning something new, but they don't even know it yet." Elias looked up at the alien fleet gleaming faintly against the stars. "They will. And when they do, it won't be pleasant for them." The forest around them was silent once more, but the humans had changed the rhythm. Their presence was now a force the Luthari could not easily measure. They had injected chaos into the calculated precision of a species that had never expected it. Jace muttered, "We're casual humans. Catastrophic to their assumptions." Elias allowed a small smile. "Exactly. And this is only the beginning. Every choice we make from now on is a lesson, one they won't forget." And far above, the alien fleet pulsed, uncertain, waiting, yet for the first time hesitant. The teachers, the Luthari, had underestimated humanity's simplest, deadliest quality, the ability to defy expectation. The sky burned a deep violet as the first flashes of the Luthari fleet lit the horizon. The humans had prepared, but nothing could have fully readied them for the elegance and menace of the alien vessels. Each ship hovered like a polished gemstone, radiating intelligence, patience, and lethal curiosity. Elias Rourke stood at the edge of the ridge, Mara beside him, Jace monitoring the readings. "They've shifted," Elias said. "No more probes." "They're coming for us directly." Mara's fingers tightened around her rifle. "Do we run?" Elias shook his head. "No, we fight, our way." The humans' weapons were primitive compared to Luthari technology. They could not hope to destroy the fleet outright. But they had something the aliens had not accounted for: intuition, creativity, and the refusal to follow patterns. "Deploy the drones," Elias ordered.
"Small decoys."
"Let's make them think we're everywhere at once." Jace grinned, his tension breaking slightly. "That's insane." But it could work. The forest erupted in chaos as tiny drones zipped in irregular patterns, blurring human positions. Sensors in the fleet flickered as the Luthari recalculated. Their precise calculations, once flawless, now stuttered against unpredictability. One ship descended, sending tendrils of silver light across the trees. The humans ducked, ran, and split, never moving in straight lines, never predictable. The tendrils struck empty space, bending around corners where no human had been. "They don't know what to do," Mara shouted, exhilaration mixing with fear. "They can't predict us." "Exactly," Elias said, scanning the battlefield. "Every move we make is a lesson. Every hesitation we don't show teaches them human defiance." The Luthari adapted quickly, forming a lattice of energy that covered part of the forest. Their psychic pulses flooded the humans' minds, images of failed civilizations, warnings, and cold logic. Jace staggered, his hand pressed to his temple. "It's overwhelming. They're trying to think us into submission." Elias's voice was firm. "Then we think outside their thinking. Listen to me, chaos is our weapon. Fear is theirs. Don't let them control it." They moved. Using the terrain, echoes, and shadows, they outmaneuvered the lattice. Mara tripped a series of small charges, explosions scattering debris and light, forcing the Luthari to react. Elias led them through a canyon, then doubled back to confuse the fleet further. Above, the Luthari ships pulsed in irritation. For the first time, a species they had considered fragile, predictable, and easily taught was teaching them. The humans' very survival became a demonstration of irreducible unpredictability. "They're learning from us," Jace gasped. "And they hate it." Elias's grin was faint, sharp. "They will. And the lesson isn't mercy. It's resistance." Then came the psychological strike. A flash of silver light, sudden and piercing, and the humans felt themselves inside the Luthari's calculations. Simultaneously predicted, measured, analyzed. A pulse of thought surged, fear, confusion, doubt. Mara screamed, not in pain but in defiance. "We're not patterns. We're not puzzles." The tendrils recoiled slightly, the pulse disrupted by Mara's refusal to conform. It was a subtle but profound victory. For the first time, the Luthari fleet hesitated, their synchronization faltering under the weight of human unpredictability. Elias pressed on. "Every move we make is a statement. Every heartbeat, every laugh, every risk, they can't calculate it. They can't contain it. That's the lesson. Humans cannot be tamed." Jace laughed, a short, bitter sound. "We're just casual humans, and they're losing it." Mara looked at Elias, eyes wide. "Do you think we can actually win?" Elias's gaze hardened. "Win? Maybe not in the way they understand. But survive, make them question everything. Make them realize they cannot control us. That's enough. That's already victory." The night air vibrated with energy as the Luthari withdrew their immediate assault, regrouping above. The humans, breathless, bruised, and exhilarated, huddled together. They had survived the first direct confrontation. They had inflicted chaos. They had shown defiance, and far above, the Luthari fleet pulsed with frustration. For the first time in millennia of calculated conquest and teaching, they faced a species they could not bend to logic or expectation. Elias exhaled, muscles tense. "They'll come again," he said quietly. "And next time, we'll be ready." Mara's smile was small but fierce. "We've already taught them something. Catastrophic." Elias's eyes swept the horizon. The stars were silent, but the lesson had begun. Humans, messy, casual, unpredictable, had already turned the tide of expectation, and the Luthari would never forget it. The forest was eerily still. Not silence, but anticipation, a charged waiting that vibrated through the soil, the trees, the humans' bones. Elias Rourke crouched behind a fallen log, heart hammering, senses stretched to the edge. "They've changed their pattern," Mara whispered, eyes scanning. "They're cautious, almost hesitant, Elias nodded. That hesitation is our advantage. They've felt the chaos we create. They've felt it. And it scares them. Jace Wren adjusted the portable scanner. His hands shook. We're not just surviving anymore. We're teaching them without touching them. Every mistake they make, every miscalculation, it's because of us. Good, Elias said, voice low. Let's push further. Let's make them doubt everything they know. Above, the alien fleet hovered, a dark constellation of living metal and psychic energy. The Luthari had paused their assault, sending probes that moved like shadows, studying, testing, but unable to anticipate the humans' next moves. Their calculations stuttered, faltered, fractured by the very quality they had underestimated: human ingenuity. The humans moved as one. Small teams, unpredictable patterns, deliberately leaving traces of their presence, only to vanish into the forest moments later. Fires, decoys, false biosignals, each carefully placed disruption forced the Luthari to question their assumptions, to recalculate endlessly. This is madness, Jace muttered, awe and fear mingling. But it's working. They can't keep up. Elias's eyes gleamed. Humans thrive in chaos. They can't contain it. And neither can the Luthari. Then came the breakthrough. A subtle signal, almost imperceptible, pulsed through the forest. Not from the humans, but from the Luthari. Something was wrong, small. A hesitation in their psychic communication, a flicker of uncertainty. They're communicating confusion, Mara said. They don't know what to do next. Elias smiled faintly. Good. Let's give them more. Using the terrain to their advantage, the humans led the Luthari into a canyon lined with jagged cliffs. Small charges and decoys simulated troop movements. Holographic projections mimicked entire squads. Each false move contradicted the fleet's predictions. Each human decision injected chaos into a system designed to control. Above, the Luthari pulsed, waves of energy surging as they tried to model the impossible. Their psychic reach strained, their patience eroding. They had faced complex systems before, but never a species that intentionally contradicted every prediction. Mara ducked as a silver tendril sliced past her. They're frustrated, she whispered. I've never seen them hesitate like this. That hesitation is weakness, Elias said. And humans? Exploit weakness, they moved deeper into the canyon. Elias placed a final decoy, a transmitter mimicking multiple human biosignatures. Then they vanished into a side passage, waiting. The probe arrived, tendrils stretching, sensing, predicting. But the canyon betrayed it. Echoes distorted its perception. Light reflected off jagged surfaces, confusing its calculations. Every movement it made led it further from reality, further from the humans who had created a labyrinth of unpredictability. Jace let out a quiet laugh. They can't control it. They're trapped in their own calculations. Elias placed a hand on his shoulder. It's more than that. They're learning, too late. They can't calculate defiance. They can't calculate hope, courage, choice. From above, the fleet pulsed with frustration. Entire psychic waves reached down, probing for the humans' next moves. But each attempt collided with unpredictability, with chaos. Every calculation collapsed under the weight of human creativity. Mara's voice trembled, excitement and disbelief mingling. They're losing control, and we haven't even fought yet. Elias's gaze swept the canyon. We don't need to fight yet. The lesson is already catastrophic. Humans, messy, casual, stubborn, cannot be contained. And when they realize that, it shatters expectations, beliefs, even a civilization's sense of mastery. Jace stared at the Luthari fleet. They've never faced a species like us. They didn't even imagine this. Elias exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in his chest relax just a fraction. They'll remember this. Every failed prediction, every frustrated pulse, it's theirs now. And the next lesson will be more direct. The humans retreated further into the forest, hearts pounding but minds sharp. They had fractured the Luthari's perception, disrupted their calculations, and demonstrated that chaos, the very essence of humanity, was a weapon no alien could fully contain. Above, the fleet pulsed again, hesitant, uncertain, calculating anew. But deep inside the core of the Luthari's collective intelligence, a subtle fracture had begun. Humanity had taught a lesson that could not be ignored, and the final act, the true test, was still to come. The dawn was pale and trembling over the alien forest, casting silver light on jagged cliffs and twisted trees. Elias Rourke crouched atop a ridge, Marave and Jace Wren beside him. Their bodies were weary, their minds stretched to the limits, but their spirits burned brighter than ever. "They've regrouped," Mara whispered, scanning the horizon. "The fleet. It's coming down, slow, deliberate. They're calculating again." Elias shook his head. "Let them calculate. Calculation is predictable. Humans are choice. That's what they can't handle." Below them, the canyon had been transformed. Debris, decoys, false trails, holographic signals, all orchestrated chaos. Every detail was deliberate. Every distraction designed to fracture perception, to challenge assumptions. "They think they control the battlefield," Elias said, "but they don't control us. And they'll find out the hard way." The fleet descended, its psychic waves pulsing with precision, scanning, measuring, probing. But this time, the humans did not scatter. They waited. Calm, poised, ready. Casual. The first tendril struck the canyon floor, sending a shockwave of energy. But the humans had anticipated it. Charges triggered, scattering debris, reflecting energy, creating feedback that disrupted the Luthari sensors. Jace grinned, despite exhaustion. They didn't see that coming. Elias's eyes narrowed. No. And it's only the beginning. They moved as one through the chaos they had created, every step a deliberate contradiction of the Luthari's predictions. Every laugh, every risk, every heartbeat fed a lesson the aliens could not assimilate. Mara glanced at Elias. "Do you think they'll ever understand us?" Elias smiled faintly. A dangerous, fierce curve. "Understand? No, that's why this works. They'll learn consequences, but never why. They can't predict courage, defiance, or choice." The fleet pulsed, trying again, more aggressively, more insistent. The psychic assault surged, images of destruction and compliance flooding the humans' minds. Fear, doubt, hesitation. They tried to force it. But the humans, battered but unbroken, met it with something the Luthari could not anticipate. Resolve. Elias stepped forward, voice calm but commanding. "We are humans, messy, flawed, casual, and you cannot contain us," Mara followed, adding her own defiance, letting the psychic tendrils brush against her mind and bouncing the force back with her courage, her instinct, her refusal. The Luthari recoiled. Not violently, not in defeat, but in confusion. Every pulse, every calculation faltered. Every attempt to control the humans collided with unpredictability, with chaos, with choice. Jace's voice broke the silence. They're frustrated. Completely. And we haven't even fired a shot." Elias exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of victory, not in destruction, but in lesson. This is the final catastrophic lesson. Humans cannot be tamed. We resist, we endure, we improvise. And no intelligence, no calculation, no so-called teacher can fully grasp that. The fleet pulsed one last time, a subtle but undeniable acknowledgement. The humans had rewritten the rules. Every prediction had failed, every pattern collapsed, every expectation shattered. Mara's smile was small but fierce. "They'll remember this, even if they don't understand it." Elias nodded. "They'll remember. And next time they'll hesitate. And that hesitation is ours to shape." Above the forest, the alien fleet rose silently, holding back, no longer confident in dominance. The humans, battered, bruised, and ordinary in every way, had become extraordinary in the eyes of beings that had once assumed superiority. "Casual humans," Jace said softly. "Catastrophic teachers." Elias allowed himself a rare, quiet smile. "Exactly, and that is humanity." The sun broke fully over the horizon, light spilling across the canyon. The humans stood together, ordinary in body, extraordinary in spirit, and watched the alien fleet drift away. Not defeated, not destroyed, but irrevocably taught. Some lessons could not be unlearned. Some beings could not be contained. And in that quiet, luminous moment, the universe itself seemed to recognize a truth the Luthari could not. Human resilience was not a pattern to study, a puzzle to solve, or a problem to contain. It was a force, wild and untamed, beautiful in its defiance, devastating in its consequences, and entirely human. The forest exhaled. The humans survived. And somewhere far above, the Luthari reconsidered everything they thought they knew about teaching. Control and intelligence. Elias's voice broke the silence one last time, low and unwavering. We're casual humans, and that is enough.